I'm Paul Chapman, Executive Director of the Centercratic Party, a new moderate political party built to fill the void both parties left behind. In the next 12 minutes, I'll cover three things: our political crisis, how we got here, and the need for a third party today. But first, a little bit about me. I am not a politician. I have never held office, and I have no interest in holding one. I'm a political scientist who built a career in business, from starting companies and advising executives to running a $500 million operation at a Fortune 100 company. That experience taught me how to assess a broken system and develop a plan to fix it. About 10 years ago, like most Americans, I noticed our two-party system was becoming increasingly dysfunctional. So I took the same approach I've taken throughout my career. I researched how both parties have operated going back to post-World War II. That brings us to our first topic, our political crisis. Our country used to work. Not perfectly, but our politicians sat down, negotiated, and governed, enough to keep the country moving forward. That is no longer happening, and we all feel it. For example, health insurance. It keeps going up year over year, and Washington takes no action. We now have one government shutdown after another, and they are getting longer and more disruptive every time. Both sides tell us it's the other party's fault, yet every time one side wins, nothing changes. That is because the two-party system itself is broken. But here is what no one is talking about. Our two parties have not just failed us, they have fundamentally transformed. And inside that transformation is an opportunity that will change American politics. Let me point out something most Americans are not aware of. It has not made headlines, probably because it has been happening so gradually over so many decades that no one has sounded the alarm. Take a close look at this chart. This is the number of laws Congress has passed every 2 years, going back to 1947. That trend line has been falling for 75 years. Congress used to pass 900, even 1,000 laws in a single term. This last term, just 274. That's not a dip, that's a collapse. And it's not getting better. In 2025, the Republicans controlled the House, Senate, and the White House, a total unified government. And yet Congress passed just 72 laws. It's on pace to be the least productive Congress in modern American history. This is not specifically a Republican problem or a Democrat problem. Swap the parties, flip the chamber, change the president, the decline continues. Congress is broken because of how both parties operate today, and it couldn't be happening at a worse time. This is why no action is being taken on immigration, healthcare, or the national debt, just to name a few. Our government was designed to run on three branches working together. When one of them stops functioning, the whole system breaks down. Let me explain how we got here. Up until the late 60s, our political parties were true local organizations. Democratic and Republican clubs in every neighborhood, meeting in such places as church basements and American Legion halls. And not every 2 years when they wanted your vote. These clubs recruited candidates from their own communities. And the party leaders, the people who really ran things, they came from the middle, because that's where the votes were and how things got done. Both parties had their wings. Democrats had liberals and conservatives, and Republicans had moderates and hardliners. But the center of gravity, the moderate middle, kept the whole thing balanced. Think of it like a tightrope act, two performers each walking the wire. It wobbled, it swayed, but the act held because the weight was in the center. And because that act held, there was no need for a third party. And then the money showed up. Starting in the late 60s and then exploding after a Supreme Court ruling in 2010, a tsunami of money poured into American politics. From 574 million in 2008 to 4.5 billion in 2024. And that money didn't flow to the moderates. It flowed to the fringes. You had political action committees on the right pushing agendas such as 10 commandments in every classroom, and on the left pushing to reshape the justice system. None of them looking for compromise. But money wasn't the only force. The internet gave political operatives tools they never had before. Precision targeted emails down to the individual. The old neighborhood organizations disappeared. The relationships, the sense of community, gone. The parties stopped being organizations and became marketing agencies. Then came 24-hour cable news, such as Fox on the right and CNN on the left, each confirming what their audience already believed, all day, every day. The media didn't create the polarization, but polarization created a market, and the feedback loop made both worse. And then came sweetheart gerrymandering, both parties rigging the map together to protect their own. In the 1970s, over 40% of congressional districts were competitive. Today, fewer than 20%. If your seat is safe, you don't need moderates. And the primaries are controlled by the most extreme voters in each party. So here's what's happened. Money fueled extremism. The internet killed local engagement. Partisan media turned outrage into a business model. Safe seats removed the incentive to compromise. And primaries became the weapon to destroy anyone who tries. Slowly, over the last 20 years, both performers on that tightrope leaned further and further toward the edges. The money pushed, the primaries pulled, the media amplified, until both of them fell off the wire in opposite directions. And the center, that space where governance used to happen, fell empty. The parties abandoned it, and they're not coming back. Going back would mean rebuilding the local organizations they spent decades dismantling, shifting power away from the donors who keep the lights on, and telling their most passionate activists that purity is over and compromise is back. No parties surviving that. This isn't a choice they're making, it's a trap they're in. And that means this isn't a bad cycle that corrects itself after the next election. This is a permanent structural change, one that has created something that has never existed in American political history, a massive vacuum right in the center. Here's a chart published by Gallup in January of this year, showing that as of 2025, 45% of Americans do not identify as Republican or Democrat. That is the highest percentage since Gallup began tracking 37 years ago. In that same survey, 27% of voters identified as Republican and 27% identified as Democrat. That means the 45% identifying as independent is nearly as large as both parties combined. That also means there are now 60 million voters with no one speaking for them. Until now. When I first began this research, building a political party was the furthest thing from my mind. But the data told a clear story. The majority of American voters have no political home, and both parties are trapped at the extremes with no path back to the center. So I looked around to see if anyone was building a real political party to fill that void. Not a brand, not a movement, a real functioning political party. No one was. So I formed a team and we built one. I know what the skeptics say. Third parties don't work in America. And they're right. They haven't. But they haven't because the center held. The moderates had somewhere to go. There was simply no market for a third party. But that is no longer true. The center has been abandoned, and now the moderates have nowhere to go. And in business, timing is everything when it comes to market entry. Over the past 2 years, a team of experts and volunteers built a moderate political party framework from the ground up. No pre-announcements, no false promises, just the work. We built an organizational framework modeled on corporate and nonprofit best practices, not the layered bureaucracy you see in the two major parties. We established 9 guiding principles, not a platform rewritten every 4 years, but principles that define how we protect our democratic system, how we engage with one another, and how we govern. We built a content operation that publishes in-depth journalism and policy analysis every week because the voters who join us want and deserve thoughtful engagement, not fundraising appeals. And we built a strategy, not the kind that doomed every third party before us. No vanity presidential runs, no vague unity movement hoping enthusiasm and common sense would be enough. We studied why third parties fail, and we built those lessons in mind. Our critics will say we are just a spoiler. We will never run a candidate in a race just to play spoiler. If entering a race means handing the seat to the more extreme opponent, we will not enter that race. Every race we enter to win. Our strategy targets winnable races, specific House and state legislative seats where the conditions favor a centrist challenger. For the midterms, we're targeting 5 House seats. That's it, 5. 5 may sound small, but let me show you why 5 changes everything. Picture a House, 215 Democrats, 215 Republicans, and 5 Centercrats. Neither party can pass a law without us. Neither party can elect a speaker without us. Neither party can advance its agenda without sitting down and negotiating with the Centercratic Party that represents the middle of this country. It brings back negotiations. It brings back the need and ability to compromise. It helps heal our broken legislative branch. Just 5 seats could help break the cycle. So how do we pull this off given the ballot barriers third parties face? I call it the Murkowski method. In 2010, Lisa Murkowski lost the Alaska Republican primary to a Tea Party candidate. She launched a write-in campaign, distributing bracelets and pens so voters could spell her name correctly on the ballot. She won, the first write-in Senate victor since Strom Thurmond in 1954. She proved that when voters are given a pragmatic alternative to an extreme candidate, they'll take it. That's exactly what we plan to do. With 41 states allowing write-in candidacies, this is highly achievable. With the right districts, the right candidates, and the right grassroots campaign. For the first time in American political history, the conditions are right for a third party. The center has been abandoned. The voters are there. The frustration is real. What was missing was the organization. We built it. It's called the Centercratic Party. If you are tired of choosing between 2 options that don't represent you, go to centercratic.party. See our principles, our policy work, and our publications. And if it resonates, please join us. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter. Volunteer to help build local chapters in your community. And please share this video. You are not alone. You just did not have anywhere to go until now.